Hello and welcome to ChatDPS, where Robert and I shine a light onto some of the more interesting stories from the world of cybersecurity. This week we've been following the Marks and Spencer story for a few weeks now, and some interesting points have come to light, and there's some interesting facts that we'd like to discuss and, sort of share those with you. Then we'll be moving on to the Office of the Australian Information Commission, the OAIC, as it releases disturbing reports stating a massive rise in notifiable data breaches. And finally, staying with the OAIC, where the Commissioner makes a statement about having a clear vision on robust enforcement. So, Robert, moving straight into it, this is a story that we picked up through a combination of different sources. The majority thing was Bleeping Computer. Marks and Spencer's confirmed that customer data was stolen in a cyber attack last month when ransomware was supposed to encrypt servers, was used to encrypt servers. The attack occurred on April the 22nd, significantly impacting business operations of the retailer's 1,400 brands, stores across, and forcing it to stop accepting online orders. The attacks were conducted using Dragon Force ransomware, affiliates utilizing scattered spider social engineering tactics to breach Marks and Spencer's network. Have been investigating the attack and confirm that intruders stole sensitive personal information belonging to customers. All customers with active S accounts will be prompted to reset their password the next time they attempt to log in via the website or the app. And a Marks and Spencer spokesman told Bleeping Computer at the time that the credit cards were obfuscated in line with PCI guidelines. I guess there's some small blessings in that all the credit card information has been tokenized, but trust and online trading will be a problem for the group in the future. Robert, as I'm hearing it, $1.7 billion in market value wiped out in just 3 weeks, all due to one ransomware attack. And Deutsche Bank have stepped in and said that they estimate that Marks and Spencer's are losing around £19 million a week, or $19 million a week in profit. Hell of a lot. A hell of a lot to discuss in there because of brand recognition, brand association, crisis plans. It's just, I mean, the list goes on. This just looks like a complete mess.
Yeah, absolutely. A complete mess for Marks and Spencer. And I guess this is a demonstration of when you look at some of the larger organizations, what the impact can be if you suffer one of these major cyber breaches, particularly in the short term, in terms of the daily effect on revenue and profit, and the fact that they just have been for several weeks just unable to properly trade on all the channels they would normally do. So huge impact to the organization. And I know we didn't mention it here, but I believe the same gang also attacked the Co-op, another major UK retailer. And so what we hear is this is a new trend of attacking major retailers. And so coming back to M&S, I guess one of the first things you have to ask is how much were they investing in their cybersecurity? So this hack seems to have been something where this particular group, Scattered Spider, has got into Active Directory and used that to move within the M&S systems before deploying this ransomware as a service, Dragon Force product to encrypt certain servers. So apparently this technique has been seen in other organizations, and this seems to be a new trend of attacking retailers. But as I say, coming back to M&S, what have they been doing in terms of investing in cybersecurity, and what have they done in the past in terms of running this sort of scenario from a crisis management, from a disaster recovery perspective? Have they run these sorts of scenarios before? You would say, looking at just speculating, looking at how they've done so far, that they probably didn't do a good job rehearsing before this.
Lurching from crisis to crisis. I mean, I'm not being funny
Yeah.
or anything, but $1.7 billion in market
Mm.
value wiped out in just such a short time, and almost $20 million a week in lost profit. I mean, from what I understand, they've not been able to trade online for all of the time that they've been out now. So that's over nearly 4 weeks now. So no online trading, which makes up a significant proportion of a percentage of the total trade that they're actually able to do. I mean, it's a service that I
Mm.
use, having family in the UK, to log in and do all sorts of, stuff to get deliveries and all that kind kind of stuff. It's a reliable. I mean, Marks and Spencer's brand has been, one of high quality, deliverable customer care. It just sounds at this
Hmm.
moment in time as if they've been talking the talk, but they've not been walking the walk with regards to their customers. I mean, because all of a sudden, I would strongly suggest that their brand is no longer that of quality. I mean, the quality goods, no question.
Mm, mm,
But
mm.
their attitude towards customers and customers' experience has got to be brought into focus on this.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I said, there's lots of points here. So I mean, another one would be, so this is the short-term impact. There will be a very long-term, like long tail impact. So you'd expect to have regulatory action. They're listed on the stock exchange, so shareholder class actions would not be a surprise. We've seen that on Australia, so we could see that. We could see that here. So there's short-term pain, and then there's very long-term pain as you work through various regulatory regimes and potential penalties there, as well as then these class actions being brought against them. So it's and you go back to perhaps if they prepare better, perhaps if they invested better in their cybersecurity, they may not have been here. Now, I suppose another point to raise is I have seen in the media that they may have cyber insurance that up to
Oh
I don't know if
yeah.
it's 100. I don't know if it's $100 million or £100 million worth of coverage. But then it'll be interesting to see if that actually gets paid out based on what they did in terms of, as I say, investing in their cybersecurity. Was that up to scratch? So I'm sure that the insurers will be looking at that quite closely as they assess any claims coming through.
One could allege negligence, I'm sure, but I'm sure the insurance companies will be looking very closely at that. But
Mm,
like I say,
mm,
alleged.
yeah.
Let's move on. We've got a little bit closer to home. The statistics from the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner. New statistics from the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner, the OAIC, show 1,113 notifications for 2024 here in Australia. This is a 25% increase from the 893 notifications in 2023. Businesses and government agencies need to step up privacy and security measures to keep pace, was the quote that was made by Carly Kind, who is the commissioner. Criminal attacks have been the main source of breaches since the Notifiable Data Breaches scheme commenced, accounting for 69% of notifications in the second half of the year, with 61% of those being cybersecurity incidents. Other attacks mentioned are phishing and social engineering, impersonation as common attack methods that organisations and agencies face. Health service providers and the Australian government again notified the most data breaches of all sectors, 20% and 17% of all breaches respectively. Gosh, that's quite a number, isn't it? You've got to look at that and go health at 20% and
Hmm.
Australian government at 17%, highlighting that both the private and the public sectors are vulnerable. Individuals often don't get a choice, but to provide their personal information to access government services. This makes it even more important that agencies keep personal information secure and have an action plan in place that should ever a breach occur. Question, mate. I mean, so looking at this, what constitutes a notifiable data breach in this particular instance? I mean, we all
Oh,
know that it's under the Privacy Act. What
yeah.
actually constitutes that?
It's a little bit complicated, probably a bit too much for now. It's more one of those in-depth things, but essentially you need to be not an entity under the Privacy Act, so that there's a threshold there. It's a $3 million turnover threshold, so it doesn't capture the majority of businesses. The majority of businesses are small to medium enterprises with a lower turnover. So at the moment, they're excluded from the reporting. And then it really comes down to an assessment. And was serious harm caused? Is there anything you can do to remediate that serious harm? Does it impact personal sensitive information? And then when you go through all of those assessments, then you go through a notification process, both to the individuals affected and also to the privacy commissioner. So it's quite a detailed steps you have to go through to figure out whether you actually have to notify under the Privacy Act. I guess the key thing here is that there's an increase in reporting. We would kind of expect to see that because we've been talking for quite some time about the increase trend in data breaches, so it's no real surprise. But I would say as well that as I mentioned, this only really relates to entities captured under and the majority of the businesses are not. So the majority of data breaches are probably not captured either, because you don't have to necessarily report. I mean, there are smaller enterprises that will opt into the Privacy Act. There will be enterprises that have sensitive information within organizations, so they will still be captured. But generally speaking, you can kind of think of this reporting as a little bit like an iceberg, where you see the tip, 20%, and maybe 80% is sitting under the water, which is not being reported. I think the other thing I would probably say is that we have seen an increase in or a tightening of reporting within legislation. So not just the Privacy Act, but we've seen mandatory notifiable breaches legislation being brought in for the public sector, at least in New South Wales, and that's also coming into Queensland as well. So there's a tightening of reporting. There's increased powers for the Privacy Commissioner as well under Tranche 1 of the Privacy Act reforms. So you kind of expect to see an increase in reporting, but at the same time, the things that we see are things that shouldn't be too much surprise, and a human error is at the heart of it. So for that, you would say you've got to train your people, you've got to invest in cybersecurity. You've got, the individual tend to be the weakest point, so that's where you've got to be looking quite closely about what you do to uplift your cybersecurity resilience. Yeah. So I mean, those are probably some of the key points that I take out of that reporting.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously that, sort of like those thresholds there for businesses to understand. If you're above $3 million in turnover, then kind of like you're on point, you need to be aware of it. Moving on though, and staying with the Privacy Commissioner, Carly Kind's been kind of in the news quite a bit this week, quite justifiably so as well. And I think this one sort of like encapsulates everything that we've spoken about this week. So this week, the Privacy Commissioner uses new powers to benchmark privacy breaches aligned to delayed privacy reform. The story that was brought out by MI3. In a statement, Carly Kind has said, "I've got plenty of clear-eyed vision on how to achieve some of the same ends through quite robust enforcement." This is all about so-called Tranche 2 reforms, without a timetable left late last year by the Labour government. But Privacy Commissioner Carly Kind has said that she plans to test judicial interpretation of the Privacy Act. She wants to set clarity for industry on definitions of personal information, consent, and the collection of personal data that are aligned more closely with what is fair and reasonable as a principle, and diverted into the delayed Tranche 2 reforms. The new investigative and enforcement powers handed to the Privacy Commissioner in Tranche 1 privacy reforms, and how she plans to use them, put industry back on notice with urgency to overhaul their use of consumer data and tracking. This all looks a little bit in legalese to me, Robert, but I mean, what are your observations about this? Does this actually mean to say what I think it means, which is, hey guys, you're on notice, we're out there, we're actually looking for this stuff now, and we are absolutely going to prosecute it? Is that what
Yeah.
it's saying?
Yeah, so I know we've got to wrap this up very quickly, just so I know we're running out of time this week. But this is a really important story, so I'll just be very quick, and maybe we can pick it up next time. But yeah, this is what Carly Kind is saying. She's looking for test cases to set examples. She's not going to wait for the next round of Privacy Act reforms. She's got extended powers at the moment, and she's looking for test cases, a little bit like Bunnings and facial recognition. She's going to be looking at other sectors, and she's signaling in the marketing sector, if you're using these pixels and tracking devices within websites and passing that information to other parties, she's going to be looking for a test case to go, you shouldn't be doing this without getting consent of your customers. So it's definitely a really interesting story, and perhaps one we can pick up a little bit later on.
Excellent. Robert, thank you very much. You are correct. We're kind of got into that discussion quite heavily this week. So that was Chat DPS for this week. We look forward to catching up with you again very soon.
Thank you.